Our story begins on the streets of New Orleans. An older man with gray hair and a cane stops in front of a psychic shop and checks his pocket watch. Inside there is a photo of a younger woman with short brown hair. She is smiling. He heads inside, and a beautiful young psychic emerges. She is wearing a dress with gold jewelry and turquoise gems on her forehead. Her dark hair is pulled back. She introduces herself as Madame Xanadu. She knows that the man is here to speak to his deceased wife. She agrees to help him. The two sit at a table in front of her crystal ball. Madame Xanadu closes her eyes. Suddenly, the crystal ball lights up. Xanadu's hair flies back in a wind that has come from nowhere. The table begins to levitate, and Xanadu's eyes turn bright as she communes with the deceased. The man's wife is speaking through her. The man laughs at her and says she is a fraud. He knows his wife would never speak to him the way Xanadu did. As he is saying this, Abracadabra appears behind him, and they disappear into thin air. Madame Xanadu runs away, terrified. All that remains is the man's cane, which begins to glow and float mysteriously into the air before it disappears as well. At Mount Justice, the Junior League heroes are training. Red Tornado enters and pulls up a photo of the man from the psychic's shop. It is his friend Kent Nelson, who has gone missing. Kent is 106 years old, and Earth's former Sorcerer Supreme, also known as Dr. Fate. Kent is the caretaker of the Helmet of Fate, the source of the Supreme Sorcerer's power. Kid Flash doesn't believe in magic and thinks it is just science in disguise. Red Tornado tells the junior heroes that the helmet can be very dangerous in the wrong hands. Miss Martian compares the sorcerers to ones she knows on Mars, and Kid Flash pretends to agree with her. Red Tornado gives them the key to the Tower of Fate, and they depart. The Junior League heads to Salem. A striped cat witnesses Miss Martian's ship land and heads to an abandoned theater. The cat jumps onto the lap of a pale, dark-haired teenage boy with an evil smile. The boy is watching Abracadabra torture Kent and enjoying every minute of it. The cat warns the boy of the junior hero's arrival. The Junior League is looking for Kent, but they can't find him anywhere. His location has been too well disguised. Aqualad realizes that the key Red Tornado gave them will reveal the Tower of Fate. The Junior League members head inside and find themselves trapped in a large stone room. A hologram of Kent appears. The hologram knows that even though they used a key, they are strangers. It demands knowing their intentions. Kid Flash, trying to impress Miss Martian, tells the hologram that they are true believers looking for Dr. Fate. The floor then crumbles out from under them, and they begin to fall into a deep pit with a lake of lava at the bottom. As they fall, Miss Martian grabs Kid Flash and flies him to safety against the wall. Artemis uses a rope to save herself and Aqualad. Although Superboy stops himself from falling into the lava, his feet sink into the lake and his boots are burned off of his body. In the town, Nelson is forced by Abracadabra and the boy to open the Tower of Fate. Although the junior heroes have managed to stop themselves from falling into the lava, they are still trapped in the pit. Miss Martian realizes that they never answered the tower's question and yells out that they were sent by Red Tornado to save Kent. Immediately, a platform closes over the lava. Artemis is angry at Kid Flash for lying to the tower to impress Miss Martian. Aqualad and Kid Flash argue about magic versus science. Aqualad wants to prove his point to Kid Flash, so he opens the platform to reveal that the lake of lava is gone and has become a portal to an icy landscape. Nothing will convince Kid Flash though. Just then, Kent's cane appears midair. Kid Flash and Artemis grab the cane at the same time, but find they cannot let go. The cane flies them into the air, and they all disappear. Back at the tower, the kidnappers and Kent are trapped in a maze of staircases. They demand to know where the helmet is, but Kent will not tell them. In the snow, Miss Martian doesn't understand why Kid Flash won't believe in magic. Aqualad explains that he can't. Kid Flash understands science, but doesn't understand magic, and therefore cannot believe in it. The cane has transported Kid Flash and Artemis to the staircase right next to Kent and the villains. The magic in the cane picks Kent up and carries him to the heroes. Kent uses the cane to open a door in the wall through which they escape, leaving the villains behind. The portal has led Kid Flash, Artemis, and Kent to an elevator. Kent explains that they are up against a powerful sorcerer, but Kid Flash argues with him, saying the Flash proved that Abracadabra is not a sorcerer, but a villain who uses science to trick people into thinking he possesses magic. Kent agrees, but tells them that the boy's name is Clarion and he is a Lord of Chaos, the ultimate enemy to Lords of Order such as Dr. Fate. Kid Flash doesn't believe him, but Kent warns that Clarion is after the helmet, and if he gets a hold of it he will use it to rain chaos down on Earth. He also tells the Kid Flash and Artemis that he is not Dr. Fate, but that Dr. Fate used his body through the helmet. Kent leads Kid Flash and Artemis to a giant bell. Once there, a portal in the ceiling opens and drops Aqualad, Miss Martian, and Superboy on top of them. Clarion and Abracadabra find them and they begin to fight. Kent rings the bell, which teleports him and Kid Flash to the roof. Unfortunately for them, Clarion flew into the bell when Kent rang it and is there with them. Kent uses what power he has in the cane to put a shield around them and the helmet. He tells Kid Flash it will give him enough time to do what he needs to do, but Kid Flash does not know what that is. Kent tells him he must believe before passing away in his arms. Clarion begins to break through the shields. Downstairs, Miss Martian uses her telepathy to beg Kid Flash for help. She tells him that they need Dr. Fate. The junior heroes are being trapped in electrical nets by Abracadabra. Clarion has used his magic to create claws that are about to rip through the shield when Kid Flash realizes what he needs to do. He grabs the helmet. Clarion warns that if he puts it on he may never be able to get it off, but Kid Flash takes a leap of faith and puts it on anyway. Kid Flash is transported to an alternate dimension inside the helmet where the ghost of Kent greets him. Kent tells Kid Flash not to feel bad about his passing, because soon he will be reunited with his wife. Kid Flash asks if that means that he has passed away as well, and Kent tells him no. They are simply hanging out in an alternate dimension while Nabu, the real Dr. Fate, uses Kid Flash's body. Clarion is throwing magic at Nabu, who is reflecting it with his shield. They engage in battle and Kid Flash realizes that he can feel the blows as Nabu takes them since it is still his body. Kent tells him that if Dr. Fate passes away, so does Kid Flash. As the battle rages, the cat warns Clarion to be careful. Dr. Fate sees his chance and grabs it. He warns Clarion that their kind cannot exist on the physical plane long without a host, and attacks Clarion's cat, who is also his familiar. Without his familiar, Clarion will not be able to maintain his presence on Earth. Clarion chooses to save his cat, and they flee Earth together. Inside the helmet, Dr. Fate tries to take over Kid Flash's body. Kent talks him out of it by explaining that Kid Flash's body belongs to science, not sorcery. Dr. Fate is upset because Kent kept him locked away for so long. Kent agrees to stay alive and allow Dr. Fate to use his body sometimes. Dr. Fate takes off the mask and Kid Flash returns it to Kent. Back at Mount Justice, Kid Flash tells Artemis that he still doesn't believe in magic but has kept the mask as a souvenir. The episode 8 begins in Gotham City. A giant monster is attacking Aqualad when Batman crashes through the skylight and defeats him. The monster has taken down all of the Junior Justice League. Back at Mount Justice, Batman tells the Junior League that he needs to speak to Aqualad alone. Aqualad apologizes for the team's poor performance. Batman tells him that the team did fine, but that Aqualad did not do his job as their leader. Aqualad doesn't know if he belongs on the surface. He misses Atlantis, and particularly someone there. Batman tells him that he can split his time between the surface world and Atlantis, but that he must keep his mind in one place, especially when he is with his team. Down in Atlantis, Aqualad goes to visit Aquaman. Aquaman asks him to come for dinner, and Aqualad asks if he can bring someone. Aquaman says yes. Aqualad visits an artist friend who is making a mural that tells the story of how Aqualad and his friend Garth helped save Aquaman from the Ocean Master. Afterward, Aquaman asks them both to train under him. Aqualad chose to do so, while Garth chose to continue his studies at the Academy of Sorcery. At the Academy, Aqualad visits Garth and their friend Chala. Aqualad invites Chala to dinner and apologizes for not being able to invite Garth as well. Garth says it is no problem. As he and Chala swim away, Garth reminds her that there is something she must tell Aqualad. At a lab in Atlantis, a scientist is telling Aquaman's brother Prince Orm that they have found a giant starfish that has been frozen for hundreds of years. They can tell that somehow the creature is still alive. Learning about the creature is their highest priority. At Mount Justice, Superboy is staring at the TV. Miss Martian asks if he wants to turn the TV on, but he says no. She asks him if he wants to help her make dinner, but he says no. She convinces him to anyways, but ends up spilling a bunch of food on him. Inside Atlantis, a bunch of bad guys in black suits are breaking in. They place bombs around the city and are hiding, waiting for the signal. In Gotham City, Robin is training. He is upset that Batman had a private conversation with Aqualad and excluded him. Batman watches him on the monitors and invites him to play basketball. At dinner in Atlantis, Prince Orm is telling Aquaman about the starfish. Quietly, Aqualad tells the Queen that he is considering coming back to train at the Sorcerer's Academy again. She says he is no longer at the same level as his friends, and he suggests that he may need a tutor while looking at Chala questioningly. In Central City, the Flash and Kid Flash are attending a family birthday party. After dinner, Aquaman announces that he and his wife are having a baby when Superman radios, and tells Aquaman that there is an emergency. He must go join the League. Aquaman pulls Aqualad aside and tells him he understands what it is like to live on the surface, but loves someone in Atlantis. Aquaman tells Aqualad that he knows Aqualad will make the right choice and departs. Aqualad tells Chala that he wants to stay, and Atlantis to be with her, but discovers that she is now dating Garth. As he is doing so, the bombs go off around the city and many buildings begin to crumble. The bad guys head for the palace, and the Queen uses her magic to fight them off. With the help of Aqualad and Chala, she is able to. Garth appears to help Chala, but she gets hit. The group realizes that there have been attacks all over the city except where the giant starfish is. Aqualad departs for the Science Center. In Gotham City, Artemis receives a letter telling her she has received a full scholarship to the Wayne Academy, but she doesn't want to go. Her mother insists. She wants Artemis to have opportunities she never did, and they could never afford the school on their own. Aqualad arrives at the science center and discovers that Garth has followed him. Aqualad and Garth disguise themselves as the bad guys but are caught. They use their powers and together they fight the bad guys. They stop them from stealing the starfish, but they get away and blow up the majority of the starfish in the process. A small piece of the starfish survives, and the Prince Orm wonders if maybe the surface world can do a better job studying it than they did in Atlantis. Aqualad finally accepts himself and his friends and returns to the surface world. The bad guy escapes and tells the light that he failed, but they tell him not to worry because all their plans are in order.